Ignite Election Watch 2025. I'm Dario, and I'm happy that you have joined us. This is 2 days following elections 2025, and the GCOM, the Ghana Elections Commission, is now in the final phase of the electoral cycle, that is the tabulation and verification phase. All of the regions have submitted all of their SOPs. The GCOM site is showing that all of the regions have submitted and have declared, and so the Commission and its technical staff are now locked in that tabulation and verification process. Certainly, it is hoped that by the end of today, the electorate and all of Guyana, Guyanese at home here and across the diaspora, should be able to have the final results of elections 2025. That is the hope. That seems to be what we are looking at. We will keep you updated here on Ignite Elections Watch, and whenever the situation gets closer to the end, we will be right here to rope you in, to bring you the details, and to take you through what those final details look like. We have been going through analysis and insights with various panels, looking at trends, looking at what the upsets are in these elections versus the previous election. The fact that the People's National Congress Reform led APNU, which entered the race with 5 other parties, has not won a single electoral district in the first time in the history of independent Guyana. Is telling. It's a seismic shift in our body politic, and the analysts will be going deep and wide with looking at what are the reasons, what are the possible fallouts, what are the possible factors that may have led to this stunning fall of the PNCR versus the almost landslide victory of the People's Progressive Party in so many regions except 2. 8 of the electoral districts have been won by the PPPC at both the national and regional level. And so we expect to have a significant increase in the allocation of parliamentary seats to the People's Progressive Party Civic, as compared to significant reductions for the PNCR APNU in the Parliament of Guyana. The Win We Invest in Nationhood Party, led by Azruddin Mohammed, has secured significant wins. They have won the battleground Region 10, District 10. This has been a battleground between the PNCR, APNU, and the PPPC for some time now. Nevertheless, the new party has been able to enter the race at a late stage with many persons across Guyana not taking them seriously, and have come out victorious in that very, very important battleground region of Region 10. That is seismic, that is historic, and so the pundits will be analyzing these results for a very long time to come. Our resident political analyst, Freddie Kissoon, said here last night that the 2025 elections will be one for study by academics for years to come, will form case studies for new theories perhaps to emerge in politics and political science because of the amount of lessons that have presented themselves in the 2025 elections. We want now to give you an update involving our teams here at Ignite TV to go through what the current numbers look like, where they stand at the moment as we see them on the GCOM website. And we're joined on set by Ramona, who is our news anchor here at Ignite TV, and by Kaylee, who's one of the leading reporters here at Ignite TV. We also have our analyst and contributor, Leonard Craig. He has been part of several panels giving insights and analysis on the 2025 elections, and he too will weigh in on what these figures show, what this 9th hour is revealing, and where we go from here over the next few hours. And so I turn my attention now and your attention to Ramona, who will take us through the paces of the numbers, and then we will bring in Kaylee, who will give us a summary of the revelations, observations made by several of the international observer missions who have reported their preliminary findings to the nation, many of them over the past, or several of them over the past 24 to 48 hours. And so we will hear from Kaylee what they have said. Ramona,
yes,
we see a very impressive spreadsheet behind us on our digital screen, and this appears to be almost the end of the process. We're seeing the numbers there. Take us through region by region for the various parties and explain to us what the numbers are looking like. We will also like to hear how this compares with the results of 2020, so that we can see where the drops are and where the increases are for the various, at least for the two main parties, the PPPC versus APNU.
all right. So as you can see here, I'm going to be very brief because all of the information that we need are here. But if we're doing a comparative analysis to the 2020 elections, then I'm looking forward to Mr. Craig for also assisting me with those numbers. All right, so as we've seen here, we have this year we've had a total registered voters of 757,690. This is in comparison to the last election period, where approximately 640,000 persons were registered to vote. Then here we have let's look at the valid votes. This year we have 438,467 compared to the last electoral period, where approximately 460,000 persons came out to vote. Now, if we're looking at the main parties, the two main parties, that is APNU and PPP, and comparing them to the previous electoral period, let's start with Region 1. So Region 1, we've seen a significant disparity in the numbers compared to the previous electoral period, especially for all the regions. So
Ramona, let me pause you for a moment. I have to leave the set. I'm feeling unwell. I'm going to hand over to my partner, Leonard Craig, to take us through. We will not stop. Leonard, could you take over? And hopefully I can be back to continue.
All right, great. All right, so as I was mentioning, compared to the last electoral period, we've seen a significant difference in the numbers, especially for the two main parties. So we have here in District 1 or Region 1, they accumulated a total of 469 votes. This is in comparison, when you compare it to the total valid votes of 15,325. Last electoral period, they actually accumulated 3,909 for general elections, that is. So as you can all see and hear, that is a significant decrease in their numbers. Contrast that to the PPP's number. They have accumulated 9,030 voters in Region 1 compared to the 8,002 voters they had for the last electoral period. And of course, the Region 1 saw a 63.98% turnout this year. In Region 2, we have APNU accumulated a total of 1,835 voters. I'm just going to put this. I feel like I'm using my hands better. APNU accumulated a total of 1,835 voters, compared to the last electoral period where they accumulated 7,340 voters. PPP this year accumulated 17,478, and the last electoral period they had 18,785. So we've seen a drop for both parties, both significant parties, and of course you can tell probably where some of the numbers went. AFC accumulated 91, FGM 147, and newcomer WIN has accumulated 7,400 votes. In Region 3, we have APNU with 8,992 votes compared to last year, the last electoral period, where they accumulated 23,808 votes. Then you contrast that to the PPP, who accumulated 48,055 votes this electoral period compared to last year when they had 47,851. All right. Let's move to Region 4 now. Now, before we go to Region 4, what are your thoughts? I mean, the numbers are here. Before I get into that, the numbers are here. What are your thoughts on what transpired this electoral period, Mr. Craig?
What is significant that I can see on the spread is that in Region 2, or except for Region 2, I should say, the PPPC seemed to have increased its vote count in all other regions, but took a 1,000 vote dive in Region 2.
Region 3. It's Region 3 actually. Here. 48 they got. No, you're right.
Yeah, Region 2.
They increased by 1,000. Yes, you're right.
Right. So, no, decrease. The last time they had 18.
In Region 2, correct.
In Region 2, now there is 17. And that shows that something is happening in Region 2 because APNU took an extremely deep dive. And we would have to guess that, it was gone to win. And what we should look at also is the total valid votes cast. In Region 2, the last time around, the total valid vote cast was 26,621. And it's just an increase by about 700 votes, right? And if we match that against the total new voters that were added on to the list totally was 100,000. And I think in that region, the total new voters was about 6,000 in Region 2. And if you got 6,000 new voters and only 700, it means a lot of people stayed home.
We do, like I mentioned before, we have a lower turnout in terms of voters this year. We have registered voters were 757,690. The valid votes were 438,467 compared to last year when the total for those that appear to have voted, well, as you mentioned, we were talking about it earlier, 640,000 approximately voted last year. So while we have more registered voters this year, we do have a significantly less turnout, I would say significantly less turnout compared to the registered voters. So what took me by surprise, though, was the Region 4 numbers this year. So let me just go through them, and then you'll give me your thoughts on why we have this disparity. So again, for the major parties, APNU accumulated a total of 46,956 votes this year, and PPP got 87,536 votes, total valid votes of 180,792. Of course, 41,607 went to newcomer WIN. Now, contrasting for the major parties, that to the last electoral period, APNU had accumulated 116,941. This is a significant drop this electoral period. The PPP had accumulated 80,920, which shows that they've actually gotten an increase of followers or supporters this term. well, of course, Win, newcomer. I'm very shocked at their number. So let's talk about that. Why such a huge disparity?
Okay.
I know we have about 300, for that region, 323,436 persons registered to vote in region 4, but only a total 182 voted.
Yeah.
182,209 voted.
Now, region 4 is the one with the most intrigue. If we look at APNU's vote, we are assuming APNU AFC, we are just imposing the APNU AFC votes to represent, in a way, APNU votes from 2020 to now. And a significant drop from 116, we're going to say 117, because it's 116,941. So let's run it after 117,000 to have gone all the way down to 46,000. The difference there is about, what, 47,000 thereabout? Or whatever. I didn't calculate it, I'm not sure. But that's a grand difference. Then if you come across to the People's Progressive Party, they increased their votes by 6,500 because the last time they had 81,000 or 80,900.
80,920.
So they had 81, now they got 87. Then Win got 41. But what is significant, even if you add Win amount to APNU's amount, it still does not amount to the 116 or 117 that they were the last time. So it therefore means then that the total opposition votes have decreased by about 30,000. 30,000 decrease in the total opposition votes. And that needs some deep dive into analysis and all kinds of things as to why that is so. The other thing too is the total valid votes cast, or the total amount of voters came out. The last time it was in the vicinity, the total voters was in the vicinity of 203.
Yeah, 202,077.
Right? And now we only have 180, 182 there.
181, yep.
Right? So a lot of these people stayed home. And
but this begs the question: why such a low voter turnout? I mean, I've seen and heard it be argued. We have a variety of people to choose from now. So
I think it's voter apathy. Now, APNU is still a national Guyanese institution, and when there is voter apathy with such a large institution, people are going to stay home. What happened, and I think it affected the PPPC, never mind they have increase in voters. Because if you look in Region 4, the amount of non-traditional voters that turned over to the PPP, it probably would make up for any difference in losses that they make. So we aren't able to judge how much of traditional PPP supporters stayed home because they made up for it with non-traditional voters. So, that is part of the analysis that we have to process as time goes by.
And if we're proceeding, I mean, as it continues, you see significant drops for APNU here compared to the last electoral period, because in Region 5, last electoral period, they had accumulated 14,502 supporters. But this year, we see 6,480. And compare that to PPP, they had 18,326, and they didn't really take much of a hit here. They had a slight increase of 18,432. And then, of course, I'm inclined to believe that APNU shared some of their supporters with the newcomer Win.
Right.
And we're moving on to, let's see, Region 6. last electoral period, APNU accumulated a total of 20,399 supporters in Region 6, and here they have this term, this electoral period, they have 6,223 supporters. Compare that to PPP from the last electoral period, they had 43,440, and this year they have 41,320. A small but, you know, impactful drop. Region 7, we've seen APNU with, for the last electoral period again, 4,813 votes. This time they only accumulated 983 votes for Region 7. PPP had 3,728 votes last electoral period. This time around, they got 3,577. Region 8, this year, APNU got 276, which is an even more significant drop compared to the 2,152 voters they had for the last electoral period. PPP is seeing, compared to the last electoral period, an increase. Last time they had 2,052 voters. This year we are seeing 2,872 voters. Region 9. But then we're calling these numbers out, but you're also seeing the voter turnout compared to these numbers. And again, you're seeing the disparity, the contrast in numbers, contrast in voters. 9, Region 9, this year, last electoral period, APNU had accumulated a total of 4,887 supporters, and this year we're looking at 450 supporters for them. PPP had 7,070 voters for this last electoral period, and this year we're seeing a 9,938 voters coming their direction. And in Region 10, which has been known to be APNU's stronghold, for the last electoral period, they had attained 19,169 votes. This electoral period, we're seeing a whopping drop to 5,334 voters. The PPP, last electoral period, had 3,162 votes. This year, 4,260. And you can see WIN with 10,458. So WIN.
Yeah, so there are two regions that needs deeper analysis, which would be Region 6, which is a very, very long-standing stronghold of the PPP. The PPP took a hit in Region 6. So when the political parties sit at their round tables, they would have to address these concerns. Why do we have an increasing voters on the voter roll I'm talking about,
registered
and
voters.
We have less voters for each party? Because if you add WIN and all the opposition together, it still does not amount to what APNU AFC had by itself in Region 6. And then the PPPC's numbers dropped by around 1,000 or thereabout. And so that is an analysis the parties will have to do. It means there was voter apathy across the region for everybody's supporters. And so while the PPP won the elections, while the PPP will be in celebratory mode, when that is finished, they got to go back to the table and address the issues that cause these voters to stay home. Then when we come to Region 10, what happened in Region 10 is more or less mind-blowing. Who would have thought that some other party, whichever other party led by whomever, could go into Region 10 and come back out looking as handsomely as WIN is looking right now? I couldn't fathom it.
And in a very short period too, because they only announced, I think it's been about 3 months since they've been in existence. So this is an extremely short period for them to attain this.
Yeah, so it means then that something is happening inside of APNU and between APNU and its support base. Something is happening there, and APNU got to work that out and work it out quickly. Otherwise, this could be permanent, because our voting trend in Guyana could get permanent really quickly. And so that is something for them to address. But what is noteworthy is that PPPC increased almost double their numbers.
Yeah.
Right? Almost double. While 4,260 don't look like much, it is a district where PPP started very close to zero. There were times when PPP could only muster 300 votes in Region 10. There were times when PPP barely got 1,000 votes. I remember one time they got 800 and something votes. And, you know, and to move from that over the years, over 2 or 3 election cycles to 4,200 is significant. And it shows a change, a changing of the mindset of voters in Region 10.
I agree. And of course, from all of these figures, we all were able to, the sources, GCOM, we got these figures from GCOM. I don't want to, of course, say that these are the final figures, because, you know, they're still working on putting the correct information out there. I mean, but looking at this, I don't know, I would want you to talk about what you think the projections for seats may be.
I think it looks like, I did not do the calculation for seats for the other parties, but what it looks like, I think you did some calculations.
I actually did. I did.
Yeah. What was
I utilized the Harry quota in order to, you know, formulate my own projections. Yeah. And that the Harry quota formula would be the number of seats divided by the
total number of valid votes by the number of seats.
So the approximations that I came up with were 36, 16, 12, and 1.
Yeah, well, that is the significant part I wanted to point out, that Forward Guyana movement
were actually
on their own, completely new, and based on probably only one known, nationally known character, which is Amanza Walton Desir, has gone into this race and has beaten the AFC that got 5 former ministers, one of Guyana's top lawyers, and all of that. And it should be significant that, you know, that party will then obtain a seat in Parliament. And basically, it's demonstrating also that, because I believe these voters came from the APNU. These are APNU voters, and it's a quote-unquote APNU seat that will be occupied there. And I would wish Ms. Walton Desir and her team the best, because when you see these small parties coming through like this, you have to laud people's effort and their self-belief. And if they had contested in like the 3 districts that they chose not to contest in, who knows, they would have gone over that a little more. But it still would have resulted in 1 seat based on the formula. But, you know, at least the figures would have shown a little better. And I think they will get that 1 seat based on a principle in the Hare formula that is called the largest remainder. After distributing all the seats, you see which party has the largest remainder, and it would be them. And that is significant.
And so, based on this chart and for the general elections, I think it's safe to say that you're looking at the totals. The PPPC is in the lead, but it's in a significant lead, because APNU attained a total of 77,998 votes compared to the total for the PPPC this year, of course, which is 242,490.
Yeah, the last time the PPPC's total was 233. So they have increased their total votes by about 10,000. And the total opposition, I think APNUAFC had 217,000. And when you add up the total opposition, it doesn't reach there. So it's clear that the greatest degree or number of voter apathy existed in the opposition support base. And not so much with the PPP, but you can see clearly the PPP has some as well.
Yes, yes. And of course, it still leaves to be impressed by 3 months in, and they accumulated more than APNU. Accumulated a total of 109,066 supporters.
That will make WIN probably the most successful third party in the history of the Caribbean. More successful than even AFC. AFC at its first outing got 6 seats. And now WIN is going to get, what was your number for WIN that you worked out?
16.
16. So
16.
WIN up that by 10. And that is significant, which will make them the most successful. Another successful third party was in Trinidad that is called the COP, Congress of the People. But the Congress of the People, one government, but they were made up of former politicians. Like, just imagine some major politicians leaving the PNC, some major politicians leaving the PPP, come together, a large number of them, and then they form a party, which is not the same with WIN. WIN entire outfit is brand new people, a new outfit, new leader.
And maybe that's what the people want to see, new people.
Could very well be.
It could be new measures, new strategies. According to these numbers, it seems that's what they want.
Yeah.
But let's divert a little from the numbers, and let's talk to Kaylee a little more about your experience. Tell us, Kaylee, your experience over these past few days covering elections. I mean, it was your first time covering elections. So I know we scared you in-house before you went out and stuff.
A little bit, yes.
To prepare, we're trying to prepare her for potential outcomes out there. But let us know, tell us what your experience was like.
Okay, before I say anything, I can definitely say it was an exciting experience, being in the ground, being a part of something like this, witnessing this as a first-time reporter and as a first-time voter. It was definitely exciting, at least for me. And I can definitely say the process was very, very smooth. It was very, very calm. And like I said, as a first-time voter going in the polling station, not knowing anything, the GCOM staff, they were very, very professional. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can definitely hear from the observers who reiterated that, all of them. The EU observers said it, Commonwealth said it, the Carter Center said it, everybody said it, that GCOM really did up their level of professionalism this year as compared to the 2020 elections. So let's get into what the observers said. So I'm just going to read it in bullet form for you, and then we're going to break it down a little bit. So with the Commonwealth, their overall assessment was that the elections were very peaceful, very calm. Most polling stations were open and closed on time, most because there were a few who still had long lines at 6 p.m. So, of course, they had to give those persons that opportunity to still vote. The staff were pretty professional. Like I said, they did stick to their training, which GCOM did re-emphasize a lot, that these staff are being trained to handle each and every possible situation. I mean, we did have a few hiccups as it relates to disability community, but GCOM did correct that. It did offer an apology, so that was corrected.
And they remedied the situations, enabling the people to be able to vote.
Improvements, again, it goes back to their level of professionalism. I mean, I don't want to sound a bit redundant, but I have to emphasize it because if you listen to what the observers said, everybody stressed it. They did say that it was very, very smooth, especially with the voting of the discipline services. That was very smooth. They did ask for more transparent voting process, and counting and tabulation. I mean, in my personal opinion, I do think it's very transparent, or as far more transparent than it was in the previous years. I mean, I was a child when voting was happening in the last years. But, you know, listening from more seasoned persons like Ramona, like yourself, even Dario, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time you can see SOPs this fast.
It's more accessible. It was public before, but you have to actually
easy accessible.
go and, yes.
So can I interject with a little question? When the observers said transparency, more transparency, did they give an example of what they're talking about?
No, they did not elaborate on that. I can say that for sure. This was from Commonwealth, so they didn't really elaborate on what exactly
so we'll have
it
to
is.
see their final report.
Yes, and you can get that within the next 3 months, as with EU. The concerns raised were reports of intimidation of public workers. I wouldn't be able to speak on that. You would have to hear on Commonwealth as to what exactly it is they mean by that. Allegations of state resources. This is a very big one because the Carter Center was the first to raise this allegation. And I'm guessing that
utilization of state resources
within the campaign process. And they also brought up unequal media coverage, especially state-owned media. Again, not something I would be able to speak on because for me it was pretty fair. You know, I did get as much access as I could, and GCOM, they do have their rules and regulations, which is the 200 meters away from the polling place, which is fair, which is understandable. So again, for me, it was pretty smooth. I wouldn't be able to say for other journalists. Smaller political parties faced with difficulties in holding rallies and campaigning outside of Georgetown. Would like to believe that's more of an internal problem for the political parties. It's not something GCOM can control or try to help. Remedies for reform, stronger campaign financing rules. This goes right back to the allegations of state resources. Biometric voter verification and transparency. They
were in favor of that?
Yes. This is something I found very consistent with all the observers that I would have been to, their press conferences that I would have been to. That's something all of them are calling for. Early voting extended to more essential workers. I'm guessing this is more to the discipline services because you have some that are abroad for whether it's military duties or some that have been sent to study. So, you know, they want them to have that period even if they can't come back. You know, just extend it a bit so that they can have provisions made for them. And polling stations made accessible for persons with disabilities. Like I said, GCOM did speak on this. They did offer their apologies on that. So I'm guessing, you know, next elections, they will.
Smoother.
Yes.
But this year, too, you didn't really see many complaints. There were a few, especially in Region 4. I am aware of those. But we also reached out when we were told, and, you know, GCOM seemed to have.
And that's one I would have witnessed firsthand. Like being outside and looking at a person with a disability saying, I can't vote. This is the second time I can't vote. And I remember coming in back here and I was speaking to Ramona. I'm like, this is not fair. And we reached out to GCOM and right away the PRO was like, I'm on it. I'm getting it done. And that very afternoon she said it was remedied. So that's something that, like I said, GCOM has really been on it this year. Final appeal. Political leaders and supporters are urged to stay calm. This is not something that only the observers would have asked for, but also the presidential candidates for the respective parties. They've all asked for Guyana to remain calm. And based on what we've witnessed, you know, even when Utamu went out into the streets, it was very, very calm. So I'm proud of my country for that.
Utamu was covering Linden for more clarity.
Yes. Again, they... back to this call for unity, peace, and solidarity, which we're currently seeing. And the next step is for them to give their final findings. That is in the next 3 months. So moving on to the CARICOM observers. So they had deployed their observers in regions 3, 4, 6, 5, and 10. They would have visited 324 polling stations out of 2,790. Correct? Yes. And like I said, the same thing, all polling stations would have been, or most polling stations opened by 6, closed by 6, except for the few that had persons waiting still. voting process, again, it was very smooth. Being able to access your polling station, that was something very helpful to me because I didn't know anything about voting. I've never done this in my life. I don't even know where I had to go. And I can tell you, being in this young generation, you ain't getting me to go and stand up nowhere and run through people. So having that QR code there and being able to do it right at the comfort of my office, it was very, very convenient indeed. Close of polls, again, they did say it was 6 p.m. So you can see a lot of consistency with Commonwealth. Tabulation of results, they did ask for a bit more transparency in that. Again, that GCOM would be able to speak more on that there. And stakeholder observation and recommendations. They did raise some concerns about bloated voters lists. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to say where these concerns are stemming from. I can only speak on what I would have witnessed. Call for biometric systems. So you see where we're going with this. Everybody's asking for the same thing. And their overall impression was that the elections was very peaceful. Polling staff, police, everybody was commended on their level of professionalism. And again, their final step is their final findings, which we will have in the next 3 to 4 months. Let's go to the EU. Again, very, yes, still very peaceful. They still asked for the biometrics. They did say, they also raised the concern of state funds being used for political campaigning. They did ask for a call for reform. So did Commonwealth, especially with GCOM. And they would have had 50 observers across the country. I believe those are the long-term observers. We had short-term observers being deployed as well. And when they would have spoken to their observers, they all got the same feedback, which is very, very peaceful, very, very straightforward across Guyana. For the Carter Center, we know they were a very, very big one.
One quick question. I know they gave an early indication, an early report, preliminary report. Did they give another one since?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Today.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know the Carter Center, they started off very, very strong, especially with the use of state resources. I know being there in the field, when the president addressed it, he did say that they would have raised their funds for their campaigns because it's quite obvious where the state resources, because you can't get win using state resources. So we know where they're talking about, and the president did reject these claims because they did say they've had their large fundraisers. In fact, they said they've had the largest fundraisers across all the parties. So today again, they did bring that up. They did ask for clarity in that, where the state resources are going. They did ask for more transparency in terms of tabulation of results as well. And they did ask for some sort of reform for GCOM. So I don't know where. I can definitely see all the observer missions, at least all the international ones, are asking for some bit of reform, not a complete reform with GCOM. Even when I was in Sophia, because I was covering a polling station there, I spoke to the Private Sector Commission, that's one of our local observers, and them too said that, it was very peaceful. The process was very smooth. The staff, if something was brought to them that they needed to change, they changed it immediately or as soon as they could. So it's very, very consistent across the board, be it international or local observers.
Okay. So you were live on the rooms when these... Oh, okay. Did you have a chance to interrogate anyone, or?
No.
You were not intimidated by their presence or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just checking. All right, so just want to make some quick commentary on the issue of the bloated list. And just for the viewers.
Your knowledge.
Our list, based on our constitution, our list, the interpretation of the court, because there was a case that the Chief Justice made a pronouncement, and it was never challenged. by anyone or taken to appeal or anything, which means there's a general acceptance that what the Chief Justice said is what the Constitution is a correct interpretation of the Constitution. We would have to assume that. Otherwise, the case would have been appealed to the CCJ. And what the Chief Justice said is that once somebody is on the list, if you remove them without if the person has not died, or if the person did not renounce their citizenship, and you remove them, it will be unconstitutional. So the fact that somebody is living overseas because there is no residency requirement, and the fact that someone is living overseas is not sufficient reason to remove them from the list. And so what is happening with the list, a lot of people who live overseas are still on the list. And some people do come back and vote. I would average like about 1,000 to 1,500 people do come back to Guyana to vote. They want to do that. They have a right to do that. So how do you make the list smaller and more realistic to those who live in Guyana, and disenfranchising somebody who live overseas and still want to come back and vote, who are citizens of Guyana?
Deprive them of that right, because okay, fine, I'm living over there. I still should have a say in what my relatives in Guyana are living with. And GCOM did speak on the list, especially you mentioned the deaths. They had a press conference on Monday, and they did bring that up because it was asked about the list and persons appearing and these persons are dead. They did say that there's a period to challenge the voters list. And, you know, if no challenges are made,
claims and objections,
there's nothing they can do. So, you know, that
especially without
and that period was extended as well. So if they would have made this provision and nobody came forward and say, oh, John died last year, GCOM can go and be like, hey,
I think you mentioned you need to submit the death certificate.
Yes, they did ask for proof as well.
So people are arguing that the General Registrar Office could just send over a list of dead people, and GCOM used that to remove. But GCOM does not have a process in law, to my understanding, because I'm not a lawyer, that allow them to do that without a claim, without an objection being made. So that is why they open the claims and objection period. And what political parties are supposed to do is get the information, get their evidence, get their evidence and take it and make an objection. And GCOM will then use that objection to remove the names. So that exists.
In terms of the bloated list too, I'm aware of concerns being raised that, you know, foreigners were allowed to vote. But then I know it's in the Constitution, I believe, that once Commonwealth members are living in and residing here, working here for approximately 1 year, they can attain a Guyana ID and vote.
I mean, it goes back to us being fair, because there's some Guyanese that would have wanted to attain residencies in other countries. I mean, you're going to another person's country. I don't want to be rude, but you're going to somebody else's country and you expect to have a say in their country. They're living here. Why can't they have a say as well? They live here, they work here, they dwell here. I mean, I understand the average person asking, okay, you weren't born here. You didn't face the struggles with me. Why should you get to say? But, you know, if you're going to, let's say, measure everybody with the same ruler, in a sense. Let's be fair. So I can understand why GCOM cleared that up.
You see, that thing about Commonwealth citizens being able to vote in Guyana is something that was handed down to us through colonialism. Because remember, Britain owned Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, and all of that. And it allowed Guyanese who go to work in Trinidad to also vote in Trinidad, and Jamaicans who go to work in St. Vincent and stay there more than a year to be able to vote in, because it's one one country with several territories, actually. Plus, also, at one time, there was something called British overseas voting, where people in the British territories, like Guyana, Jamaica, and so on, were also allowed, because Montserratians also vote as British overseas territories, and the British Virgin Islands also. So Guyana used to be like that. The law came down, and we never really changed it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, it all goes back to us being fair.
And one other thing before we take a break is, just before we take this break, there is one thing that happens during voting that people don't realize how hard it is on the GCOM staff. There are some very, very inaccessible places that some places you could only walk to get there, use a canoe and then walk so far and all of that. And you got to set up voting system there, voting booth and all of that, with full GCOM staff, and only 5 people got to vote. And if you look at the SOPs in some of those inaccessible areas, you will see that only 5 people have to vote there, or 7 people are on the roll, but you got to go in there and do the full process that you do on the coast.
Even in Region 3, there were, because I was going through the tabulations, our team were here working late at night, going through the tabulations, and some of the polling stations, nobody went, nobody voted there. Right.
And the staff got to sit down there and stay from 6 to 6 because there are names on the list
I feel
to vote.
It's because of the areas, because I'm guessing when you go into those far off regions, I could tell you, ain't nobody walking through a trail to go to the, I guess, the central point to vote. Because it's a far distance. So I get the pressure. I get why you're getting these numbers, you're getting these zeros at certain polling stations.
And people got to understand that GCOM has to do the process. Democracy demands it. So even if you got to crawl, you got to put basket on your back to go to reach one voter, you got to go and set up that thing for the one voter. Or you got to find a plane, a train, and a boat, and a canoe, and fly them to a location to vote and then fly them back. So that is part of our democracy. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you in about 5 minutes. So thank you for viewing, and we'll be back with you soon.
Welcome back to all of our viewers tuned in on Channel 6 and across the various social media platforms where we're streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, and the other social media platforms. I'm happy that I could rejoin this very dynamic and informative panel. Ladies, Kaylee and Ramona, we thank you very much for your insights, and of course our contributor, Leonard Craig, who is here to provide some amount of analysis and political thought to what is happening as we see it in this tsunami, political tsunami of an election 2025. The history books, I'm sure, will record the elections of 2020. In fact, Leonard, during the campaign, several of the leading political parties indicated that this is perhaps the most consequential election since independence. I gather that most of them were referring to the fact that we had a sanctioned candidate running for president. I'm not sure that we imagined that this being the most consequential would have been speaking to a collapse of the People's National Congress reform. Complete collapse. Winning not a single district across the country.
I don't think anybody expected that. But when they refer to consequential, I don't think they were referring to the sanctioned person necessarily. They were referring to Guyana has entered and will enter from 2025 onward into a new period of development, of transformation. And anybody who is interested in politics would want to be there, would want to be one of the drivers of that. Because Guyana now will, we are now going to be producing over 900,000 barrels of oil per day. And that can transform our skyline. We can build fancier buildings, larger buildings, higher buildings, wider roads going to places that we never imagined. We could build a road going from Perica to Goshen and build a bridge going across to Bartica.
And we can make them more modern.
And we can join Bartica and Linden with Oriala and Siparuta. You know, all of those possibilities. And if you are a politician that's worth your salt, that is of major consequence. And
How are you handling the fastest growing economy?
Yeah. And if you are a Guyanese alive today, you would have an experience that nobody else, no other generation will experience. Because this generation is a generation that's going to build everything. Everybody else who come after will just have to repair and fix up and just add. But we are laying that foundation, and that is what makes the election consequential.
And we're going to hear a whole lot more of those insights and analysis in the next segment, because I will not want to burden our reporters with political discussion, because we go deep and broad in the politics of these elections, and journalists, by their very nature, have to straddle a very careful line between reporting the news and commentary. So we're going to wrap up with them. I particularly wanted to go back, though, to the Carter Center's presentation this morning to make some important points and to perhaps have Kaylee weigh in on the accuracy of what I'm about to share. With regards to the bloaters list, the bloated list, sorry, it was observed that while the law is there, apparently there is provision in the law for the removal of dead people from the list. However, they observed that apparently that's not been utilized effectively enough. Whatever systems have to trigger GCOM to act apparently are not working well to create that trigger. Leonard, you tried explaining some of the triggers, including objection and so on, that must occur. And so they were concerned that those triggers that must enable GCOM to act have not been working well. But this is the important point that they made about that bloated list. They said throughout their observation across the country, there was absolutely no evidence to suggest that the bloated list or the aspect of the list that would have made it bloated was not tampered with, was not manipulated at all in the voting process. And I think that's perhaps the most critical observation where it comes to this bloated list, that they have said they have absolutely no evidence to suggest that any manipulation happened with regards to the use of a bloated list. They also observed that civil society needs to be much more engaged in our democracy between elections, so that when we get to the elections, the whole process becomes easier. With regards to the entry of a sanctioned candidate in the race, they clarified that they are not a government agency, is not funded at all by the US government, and that they are aware that there are provisions, laws, and systems in place within the US legal structure to address such a matter of a sanctioned individual becoming the leader of the opposition in Parliament, and they will therefore defer to the US government to treat with that, that development as it happens.
And if I also may add, the US Ambassador Thoreau also indicated that they have measures in place to work around or work with these individuals, OFAC sanctioned individuals too.
So that was an important observation. On the issue of incumbency and the race not being level, the accusation of there not being a level playing field stemmed from the perception that the government was using state resources in its campaigning. So the observation made in that regard was that incumbency, a contesting party looking for re-election that is in government at the moment of an election, is not unique to Guyana. It is a phenomenon that is spread around the world in almost every democracy, and it's a challenge that is faced by all democracies around the world. What it comes down to, they said, is for the Guyanese people, the Guyanese society, to push for a framework that addresses it, a Guyanese solution that addresses how incumbency is used in an election, or how an incumbent government used their position of incumbency during an election campaign, notwithstanding the fact that a sitting government requires institutional systems to remain in place, the safety of the president as he travels the country, the logistics that must accompany a motorcade that involves the president, and senior government functionaries who are still part of the government during those elections. And the fact that this is not unique to Guyana, it's a challenge that is faced across the world. Their observation and recommendation is that going forward, and perhaps as part of the constitutional reform process, a framework needs to be developed here in Guyana as a Guyanese solution. With regards to the constitutional reform, they observed that they are happy to see that the commission was constituted during the tenure of the Ali administration, and that in a new administration, it is hoped that the commission will get down to business of consultation and getting the process of reform actually going. Kaylee, did I get it right? You covered the Carter Center's presentation
I
as well.
feel like you definitely went into the nitty-gritties of it, especially with the state funds, because I can tell you, I'm pretty sure, there are a lot of viewers that might hear these big terminologies and not understand what it means. So being able to hear it, what exactly it means, because it's easy for an observer mission to say, oh, we found this. me who's let's say I'm selling in the market, I'm sitting thinking, what does he mean by this? And then you're breaking it down, explaining to them, reaching it on, I don't want to say, putting it in layman terms in a sense.
Yeah.
So people can understand why these things are happening, how they're happening. I mean, yes, they did point it out, and I must say, it's good that everybody pointed it out. Because you don't want, let's say, if it is actually happening, for it to constantly pass by.
Before coming on air, I saw a video that's very troubling. A statement from the presidential candidate of WIN, which we will delve into with our political analysts when the others join us. However, I raised that because in the context of all of the reports issued by the observer mission, where there's a common thread, as we heard from Kaylee, of there having been no evidence or no instance of irregularities that were sufficient enough to affect the conduct of the poll, to impede the exercise of the constitutional right of every voter, or to impact the overall outcome of the election. That was a common thread throughout all of the reports we've received so far. And so when you juxtapose that to the inflammatory nature of what we saw in the statement from the WIN presidential candidate, then I think we are in for some serious days ahead, depending on how this goes. So I would bring this segment to an end if there's no other observation to be made. And so that we can get into the analysis with our commentators. Thank you very much, Kaylee and Ramona, for having joined us and for doing a splendid job in taking us through the numbers as well as the reports from the various observer missions. We are yet to hear. We've heard some of it from the local observer missions, but we look forward to hearing more fulsomely from the private sector commissioner and others as we perhaps go through the rest of today and tomorrow, so that we can have the totality of the observations that were made by all of the missions and the recommendations that they are making. So stay tuned with us. We'll be back with you in a very short while. Those of you who are on Channel 6, do not change that channel. Those of you who are streaming with us live across social media, this is where you need to remain. We would like your company for many more hours to come. Stay with us.
Good evening again, viewers. If you're joining us on Channel 6 or anywhere in social media, welcome again. You probably expect to see Dario here, but he had to step out, probably because of some illness, not feeling too well. So I'll be with you for another 45 minutes or so. And joining me tonight is Ruel Johnson, a writer extraordinaire and a political commentator from time to time. And the hat you'll be wearing tonight is the hat of a political commentator. We will discuss several issues surrounding the elections, and we will take you through some paces. We will also do some projections based on the numbers we have seen extracted from the statements of poll that are up on the GCOM website, which you yourself can take a calculator, computer, whatever, and do the calculations as well. Before I go across to Ruel, I would like to bring to our attention a couple of things. One, we need to understand our electoral system in Guyana to understand the other processes that are to come next. And understanding and appreciation of how votes are counted and how the electoral system works is important to understanding what is it that GCOM needs to do next. And let me just give a quick summary, and then I'll bring Ruel in. Now, we have what you call a proportional representation system. What that means, each party have seats in Parliament that are in proportion to the votes received. So, for example, we have 10 people contesting 10 votes received for 10 seats. The party with 6 votes, or 60% of the votes, gets 60% of the seats in Parliament, something that is essentially what proportional representation means. But then, how do you determine how many votes for one seat? What you do, you get the total number of valid votes and you divide that by 65. That's a rough calculation. There are some other deeper calculations because we have a two-tier system. We have a constituency system, and then we also have what you call a top-up list. The constituency list for each region with different numbers in the region are worth 25 seats, and the top-up list, there are 40 seats to give 65. So there is a little difference behind that, but I'm just giving you the basics so that everybody could understand. So what you do, the total number of votes cast, you divide that by 65 to get for one seat, and then you take that amount that you get and divide it by the votes received for each party, and it will tell how many seats they have. When you do that, what you will find is that you are only able to allocate 64 seats. The final seat then is awarded to whichever party has what you call the largest remainder. So you look at what each party got remaining when you allocate the seats, and the one party with the largest remainder gets the last seat. And basically that's in a nutshell, how seats are allocated, and that is the process that GCOM is going through now. And when GCOM comes back to us with respect to results, I think that is what they're coming to announce. But the other results, I think it is known, and as media houses, and people who are sitting at home can confirm those results from the statements of poll. Basically, in a nutshell, that is what we will expect next with respect to this process. And then following that, GCOM certifies it, sends a certificate to the Chancellor of the Judiciary, who will then make arrangement with the presidential candidate, and then that person is sworn in. Now let me turn to Ruel. Ruel Johnson, welcome to the set.
Thanks.
Of Ignite Television.
Yeah. Whenever I come here, I get this highly lauded the introduction that, makes me want to come on again. But yeah. But
Ruel,
I love that explanation you gave. I think it's critical that voters get a semblance of what's going on.
We are not going to be having a question and answer interview. We're just going to interact. We're going to discuss about some of the important trends we're seeing in the election results. Yeah. And as far as possible, what I like to do is to educate the public. So if we can surely take that slant, that will be beneficial.
Of course.
Beneficial.
I know you and Dario have been batting on here for a good while now. And so you won't necessarily have had access to developments as they go on.
Yeah, surely.
So in keeping, in addition to what you just said, part of the thing is that the votes are divided among the 10 administrative regions. So GCOM goes through the process of counting the SOPs and then putting them in a table, tabulation, and then coming up with the final score. So as of when I came into studio, we've had the regional declaration. So when GCOM confirms and counts and signs off on all the votes counted of our region and divided by the party, they make a declaration. And that's the legal instrument that says these votes are. Now, before I came in, a couple of things happened. One, there were only two outstanding, up to early today, there were only two outstanding, Region 7 and Region 4. And they have now been declared, so all 10 regions have been declared by GCOM.
On the regional side?
On the region, not the votes, both regional and general, right?
Okay.
So all have been things. So the next step was to make is usually to make the pronouncement that this particular list of candidates has emerged officially in total with the highest number of votes, and they are now forming the government. Now, what stops that temporarily? Many things, as we learned from 2020. But the first and most direct way of stopping that, the full declaration, is for a legitimate, a valid request for a recount to be made. And as of about an hour ago, GCOM put out a statement saying that the APNU has made a valid request for a recount in one section of Region 4, and it has been granted. So at 8 o'clock tomorrow, GCOM is going to set up 25 different stations, and they're going to do a recount of that particular section of Region 4.
Do you know which section is it?
I am unclear. They just said a section of Region 4.
Oh, okay.
So when that's done, and notably another party win, the presidential candidate has went on again while you were on off here.
While I was on here.
While you were on here, said he disputes the outcome, and that several requests have been made to GCOM, but notably GCOM has said only one valid request has been made, and that request is based by APNU. Now, what that says is that, let's say GCOM finishes by midday with the recount of that particular section, and until now we don't have any reason to believe that any other recount request will be granted. We then get to the national declaration, and then that triggers the process, as you just described, for the swearing in of the list with the highest number of votes. And I see you've done some projections and what that list might be. So yeah.
Yes, thank you for that update. That is something I would not have known because So viewers, there you have that update, which is very, very important to the process.
Yeah.
And it delays the final declaration by some amount of additional hours.
Yeah, so
because I figure without that valid request, GCOM could have made that announcement by tonight.
Yeah, easily, because it's a question of math. If you just add up all the 10, the number is clear.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is in the law that a contesting party can, I think it's within 24 hours or 48 hours of the declaration, can request recounts if they are not satisfied, and everything that happened in the original recount would have to happen.
Original count, yeah.
The original count will have to happen in the recount. For example, party agents would have to be there, GCOM staff, observers, and all of that. And the same process of counting, taking out each ballot, make sure everyone who legally able to be there to see the ballot, and then you tally one by one. For each political party.
Yes.
Right? So that process, we have to allow that process to go on.
Yeah.
Counting is usually not a long process.
No.
Right? No. And if it's just a section of region 4, then it's even,
And then section is kind of vague. So I guess you're looking at sub-districts.
Yeah, sub-district.
Right? Region 4 is divided into several sub-districts.
Into 4 sub-districts.
And I doubt whether it's going to be an entire sub-district.
Okay.
You'd have to. So it is, and the recount process the request cannot be arbitrary.
Right.
So GCOM as a commission has to deem that there is some plausible basis presented by the party for a recount, because by that token, any party could just say
just something. And one other piece of information on the recount: a recount could be requested in a specific ballot box or a specific set of
polling
boxes
sites
or a
from one polling
specific
site,
polling site or something like that. So, for example, there might be 4 ballot boxes in, let's say, East Rumveld Primary. They can ask for everything in East Rumveld Primary to be recounted, or they can ask for the entire subdivision. They can even ask for the entire Region 4. The law gives them that prerogative, and we should allow the process to go through. And for those people who are on Facebook and who are interacting on social media, it's not necessary to become hyperactive over that. It's not necessary to get worked up over that. It's part of our legal process, and we should just be calm and let the process go
well, and it's good you said that, because even with this ostensible delay, GCOM is still very much on track with their own established timeline, which they promised that there's going to be, well, except one, there was going to be a preliminary release today, but they've effectively done that, because by virtue of making the declaration, separate declaration for all 10 regions, the information is there.
Right.
So, and they said that they would have the declaration, the official declaration, tomorrow. So, presuming that these 25 stations, which might indicate 25 ballot boxes, because it will be one station per ballot box, right? Which indicates it's probably a cluster that has been queried, a cluster of sites. So you have, I'm guessing, the morning to do the recount, a part of the morning, the reconciliation, and then all things being equal, a declaration
You
as
know
promised.
what I'm not sure about, Roel?
Yes.
Can there be a request for recount of the recount?
I doubt whether it can be.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Because if it is that you don't resolve these issues, then there's something completely flawed with the system.
Yeah.
But the electoral law and convention says that 2020 notwithstanding, you ensure that the will of the people is swiftly followed once they have been verified results. And anything else challenging that should come in the form of an elections petition after the president has been sworn, the declaration is made and the president sworn in. And of course, there's a timeline for that as well.
There's a timeline, right.
About 30 days, I believe.
All right. Now, based on the tabulation of the SOP so far, we are projecting 36 seats using the formula I outlined earlier. 65 seats divided by the number of valid votes cast, and then divide that further by each party's number. We believe, or we're projecting 36 seats for the People's Progressive Party. It can be maybe 37, maybe it could be 35, based on, as I explained earlier. We are also projecting 16 seats for WIN, for WIN. And then we are projecting 12 seats for APNU and 1 seat for Forward Guyana Movement. And Forward Guyana Movement is likely to fall in the category of what I spoke earlier of the largest remainder. Because when you parcel off the votes for each one of them, you then look across and see which party now has the largest remainder. And to us, that seems to be Forward Guyana Movement. All right, of course, we are not GCOM, and let me state that clearly. We are not GCOM. We are just making projection for the purpose of our discussion,
of course,
using the GCOM numbers and using the formula, the simple formula as outlined in the Representation of the People's Act.
Of course.
Ruel, APNU having 12 seats
so
signals something. Something major in our history. It's a history-shattering moment.
Of course,
How will you make of that?
Well, there are two, either way, there are two history-shattering moments. There are actually three. There are a couple of things. One, the fact, and this is where, however they did it, as you know, the term, the sort of cynical term used is a win is a win. And in Wynn's case, I may have had some issues with the quality of the campaign, the theater, but the numbers in this process that has been verified as free and fair by the observers, despite what Wynn is now saying, right, shows that they legitimately got the valid votes required by your projections, and I've seen similar projections since within the ballpark. Have gotten 16 seats. Prior to that, when we've had legitimate, from 1992 onwards, elections, no other party has been able to do that. The closest third party has been able to do that, to get that number of seats. The closest was AFC with 7 in 2011, I believe, which in combination with the APNU's, PNC's 26 seats, was enough to do the historical thing of giving a minority government. So there's one. This is unprecedented in terms of electoral outcomes, particularly for a relatively new party. Of course, the biggest shock and historical thing is that one of our two historical parties, the core of the APNU is the PNC. It's George Bush, when U.S. wanted to invade Iraq, had, the coalition of the willing with U.S.
Which is,
and then 30 small countries with no names. No names. It's this thing. What you have here is the PNC. And what makes it worse is that it's the PNC plus these other smaller parties. And for the first time, the PNC in its entire history, I'm only counting from legitimate elections 1992 going onwards, for its entire history, has gone below the 20-seat mark. They came close, but they've gone so far below that they've almost hit 10. And they may hit 10 or closer to 10 as the votes are judged, because we're now just doing projections here. And they've been upended by this new party. Now, what's being lost in all of this? Because, and this has been, I made a case that a narrative has been driven in which the attention has been focused on the new party. And there's been a false narrative that the new party has been an earth-shattering thing that has revolutionized the political system and stuff like that. That's not fact. It's a fact that it has eaten into a traditional party's base. But what has been cast aside, and again, this is part of a narrative, and we need to correct this, is that its negative impact has been on the incumbent, which is the opposite of what is the thing. The last parliament, the PPP had 33 seats, and it was part of a trend wherein the majority, the parliamentary majority, whether as a single party or combined, had been stuck at 33 seats for 3 cycles. To have grown by 3 seats means that it's broken out of that gridlock of the past 3 elections in itself. But with 36 seats, the incumbent president, Irfan Ali, has tied a previous incumbent, the vice president, in 2006 when he had 36 seats, which was a record high then. Now, if the formula turns out that there's 37 seats, we will now have a record high in parliament for a winning or for a ruling party. So you would have either way. It's either that the current president has tied the previous record, which is again PPP, or he's surpassed it, and that is unprecedented. That shows a solid mandate of the people, because at 36 seats, and I know math has been the bane of some of our politicians, but if the president has 36 seats in the 65 member National Assembly, then there's a 7-seat gap between the combined opposition. 16, and let's use these figures, 16, 12, and 1 is 29 seats. There's going to be a 7-seat gap.
Right. Let me just plug something there for the viewers. People may want to know how a party only increase their seat count by 3 and the gap is by 7. Because after the first seat, if
you get to move.
Exactly. Because you got to move one from over here to put it over
exactly.
there.
So you take away.
You take away and it becomes...
Because a finite number of seats, It's a finite number of seats,
Right. So by just increasing their tally by 3 seats has given them a 7-seat majority in Parliament. And that is how it works.
7, possibly 8. If
there's an additional seat, it won't be 8, it will be 9.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Raise it by 2.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You got to take one from here and put it over there. Right. It will be a 9. Just one more seat will give them a 9 seat.
I had a long day. I'm having a huge moment with
Matt. And that is unprecedented.
But so we have, and this is important, we have a going forward, either way, 36, even 35, a solid mandate by the electorate for the incumbent. And this is after a great deal of very deliberative and very deliberate and very directed, very, very, very curated speculation that the bases of both parties will be, it cannot be it cannot be the PPP is supposedly being damaged and they're increasing their votes. The 2 things cannot be equally true.
I hear you, but I don't 100% support that, because there are several things happening at the same time,
Yeah,
several dynamics.
Oh, I understand.
And if you look closely at the results, PPP in 2 regions,
Yeah.
they are 1,000 votes each less
Yes.
than they had the last time.
But
And with all of this, and remember, on the voters list is 100,000 new voters were added overall. Last time we had 600 and something thousand, now we got 700 and something.
yeah, but the PPP has actually increased its votes.
In Region 4.
No, forget the Region 4. And we could put all sort of factors in. I mean, people move from different places, etc. So their votes, what's critical to consider is that the number of votes
has increased. Yeah.
From the total number of votes cast, I believe, between valid votes cast between 2020
and now
the
valid votes is less this time around.
It's less this time around.
And PPP has, even with less voters,
votes, the
PPP
has
still increased.
Not just increased it as a percentage, but increased the real votes.
The real votes, yeah, by 10,000.
Yeah, so that decries.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
But remember, you are using your analyst hat, but
Yes.
I am a political activist.
Yeah.
And the political activist clock in my head is telling me that you can't ignore even those minor drill.
Oh yeah, but let's say that we accept that the PPP's base has been affected or and we don't have any full evidence of that.
Yeah.
Then we also have to assume that the PPP has also increased its base.
Exactly.
And eaten into
Yeah.
somebody else's base.
Yes. Yeah.
So the sum of it is that, and that is not necessarily a bad thing in the sense that if it is that you've lost a small amount of your base, but you've gained significantly more because again, there are more votes and there's a larger proportion of the votes, which means that in a society has been defined by ethno-political divisions. The argument that has been made, particularly by the PPP's General Secretary, the architect of the campaign, is that they have gone after in a very robust way a diversified political base, and that these numbers seem to be indicative of that.
Yeah, surely.
Yes.
You're surprised at the returns for Win?
I am not surprised that they have eaten into what's formerly coalition's base. I've given reasons for that. I'll sum them up now. One, there's been a deficit of trust between the coalition and the PNC, let's say the PNC, and even the AFCs, AFC had carved out a niche for themselves. There's been a deficit of trust coming out of the 2020 elections in which they've gaslit their support base. They have continued up to now. I mean, one of the key components of the clarity and transparency available in these elections, and which is added to integrity of the process, has to do with the SOPs and the availability of the SOPs for all and sundry to see and compare. Until now, we have not seen a single SOP from the
single
coalition.
dispute of what's on the SOPs as well.
Yeah, or the SPs that they claim saying that. Now, in addition to that, this race from Aubrey Norton's side, and Nigel Hughes as well, more than Norton in fact, because whereas Norton has belatedly, sort of thrown hints and say he's observing when impacting their base, Hughes has been silent completely.
Yeah.
On when, in fact, when consulted with him.
Yeah.
Before
there's evidence of that. Yeah.
The result of that is that there's been a campaign in which the focus has been on the PPP, and not as if they weren't competing against Win. Well, at the same time, Win was saying, we are tired of these two-party politics.
Yeah.
And if they're saying you're tired of two parties and the two parties haven't done anything, then you're criticizing this person who's not criticizing you. You're punching this person who isn't punching you back. And you're doing that in front of that person's support base. Whereas with the PPP,
from the beginning,
took them
the
on, said,
took
them on. As soon as they enter the political space, well, you enter the political space. The result has been the PPP has gained votes, and Win has decimated what has been a compliant to the point of being complicit.
Yeah, so I think the opposition miscalculated big time.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, they gave their supporters the understanding, even if you wanted to be a core supporter of the PNC, APNU, the message that was being transmitted to them was, it don't matter who you vote for as long as you vote against the PPP.
Yes, and people took them up.
So people took them up on that
offer, and they went for the flashier campaign. They went for the social media campaign, and
where the money is, where the money is more exposed.
Yes. So you had a campaign that was you had a APNU plus AFC that couldn't decide among themselves whether there's still a coalition, and then you had a solid force that branded itself as a thing. And even so, Win's campaign was disastrous by measures of clarity, of integrity. The light route from the Jack Bard issue to the prime ministerial candidate, Tabitha Sarbert-Hill.
24 hours before elections.
But also who the morning after elections took to her Facebook page and made a general accusation that the PPP was trying to open up, was spending night. Opening up on.
That was so.
But it was unsubstantiated. She didn't answer challenges. She disappeared completely. As well as the presidential candidate who only reappeared to also make general accusations without evidence. And again, clearly without a valid request for reconfirmation to GCOM.
I think there are forces in the background that are probably probing them to do that.
Well, but outside of that, I mean, you could say that, but the point is, in sum, it has been the most dishonest political campaign. I mean, everything from the pronouncement on the NGSC, but people, it's like emperor's new clothes phenomenon. People were willing to look past all of that because they wanted to believe that there was somebody viable who could contest against PPP. And they knew it wasn't Norton, and they knew it wasn't Hughes. Right? And this is why the AFC has been wiped out completely.
There is a phenomenon that occurred in the AFC that may also be applicable. It may not be as a big a factor as what we just discussed, but I think it's a factor. When the AFC started, which I was there from the beginning, we had trouble finding foot soldiers to go out in the field and work. People like you, and they come to you and they say, we like you, we like what you're doing, we support you. But when you ask them, man, come stand with us and go in the fields, they start fading out. And AFC took a decision that we are going to pay our field workers. And when AFC took that decision, it changed immediately. People start coming, lining up, coming to us. And in that process, we made them converts.
Because you invested in them.
Exactly.
So the thing with the phenomenon that you just described, we invest in neighborhood, is that it's more like we invest in groundwork. And the problem, of course, with that is, and again, this is really disparity, because is that the AFCU, at least when it originally came out, had an air or thing of integrity about it. Surely. Win, for me, I know we have to wrap up soon, represents in many ways a sort of a fractured reflection of that, because where you have the momentum, and it's certainly surpassed the AFCs in 2006, what you have is a complete lack of attempted transparency with regard to a fundamental aspect of this thing. And well, all parties have some ways been guilty of it. This has been the extreme of it, wherein you have a party that has complete opacity when it comes to funding in itself.
Yes, yes.
You have a single source funder. There's been every other party has had fundraisers, including the PPP incumbent. Win has not had a single fundraiser in its entire thing. And then when you consider that the party that it sort of merged with, but which it sort of swallowed whole, was ANOG, which had as one of its platforms transparency in campaign financing. That's been thrown out the door. I mean, every time I tag Mark France and ask, what happened to your campaign transparency? He gives some contortion and runs away. But you have a party, and that doesn't account for the fact that WIN operates under a cloud of financial impropriety. So the tax evasion, etc., all that. So you have monies being denied the treasury. Monies allegedly being sourced from illicit activities. And then you have, in column A, you have a dark area, then you have a self-finance campaign. So, but people still chose that over
it demonstrates for me
APNU and AFC.
It demonstrates to me a crisis of leadership inside of the APNU.
Of course.
More than
of course,
the AFC.
No, the fact that, under the current leadership, and when I say the current leadership, I mean the current leadership from 2015 to now, this continuum. It's a compound failures. The party of Forbes, Burnham, has 11 or 12 seats in Parliament. Is it?
In a kind of a way, it must be a burden on your heart, as long as you're Guyanese, regardless of which party you support, to know that APNU or the PNC is a national treasure for many Guyanese and a national institution for all Guyanese. That is the party that have provided presidents, that have provided opposition leaders. And can you fathom the amount of power that would be now in Mohammed's hands? The GCOM commissioner's got to resign now because this current opposition leader would have to...
I see people making jokes about Doggy and Fatah and Lola in Parliament. Now I'll say that's impossible because... But it's only by virtue because they're not on the list. But that said, Vincent Alexander, Charles Corbyn, and Desmond Trotman could be replaced at GCOM.
No, by right, they should be replaced.
No, not. I know they will be replaced, but I said they can be replaced by Doggy, Fatah, and Lola. Right. We have an entire, and there's nothing, because the leader of opposition, who, from your number, from the numbers, except that WIN will provide, it doesn't necessarily have to be, and I'm going to project now that it will not be Azruddin Mohammed, but it will be a member of his party as leader of the opposition.
You think he would go to Parliament?
No, I don't think he will. I don't believe he will. But we'll see.
Okay.
But he has he has about 16 seats to play around with, right?
Interesting.
But whoever that person is has the power to send Doggy, Fatah, and Lola. And I'm quite...
if not them, people
as GCOM commissioners. And I mean, I say that, and it might appear to be, pejoratively casting, but to be fair, in terms of integrity, I keep making the joke that, but I'm a half joke, that somebody like Fatah, for example, has shown more integrity in this process than the people representing APNU and the AFC. I'll give you an excellent example before we wrap up. There's a video of Fatah on TikTok. She says, you know what, I accept that this thing is over. thing. I just want to be able to work as a Guyanese, and I don't want anybody to target me. And we accept that. That's fatal. Contrast that with Chair Duncan and Chris Jones.
Yeah. When you look at what
going on a video and saying, we still have a pathway to victory. You got 11 seats.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
you don't have a pathway to the leader of the opposition. But they're saying that they have a pathway to victory over 36 seats.
And not only that, all day they're posting complete negatives, questioning even little infantile, every little beetle, little ants that pass somewhere and cast a shadow.
Yeah, but the idea is to question in the public eye, because it has no legal bearing. It can't impact GCOM. If you notice, for the very first time in about 1 million years, Vincent Alexander is completely silent. Right?
Yeah.
You can't get past the law, that basic thing. So the idea now is to foment questioning of GCOM's capacity. GCOM, that every single observer says has conducted itself credibly in a clear and transparent process. And the only court that they could be appealing to is the court of public opinion. And the court of public opinion has two options for sanction. It can say, nah, I believe you. Or because I believe you, and then there are consequences to follow if it is they believe the misinformation. So the key thing, and this is programs like this I believe coming, this is why I keep appearing on them, is that there's only one set of people who are providing clear numbers, speaking about the law, and not casting doubt on the integrity of the process, particularly without evidence.
And I would say what is happening over there is very injurious to confidence in the process. What they're attempting to do is to injure the confidence in the process. So even if the results are declared as they are, they want to transmit the thought that
it's been unfair. And I should give credit where credit is due. There are only two political entities in the opposition that have not sought to misinform. That is Amanza
and Brooms.
Right? Amanza and Brooms. And this, by the way, those are the ones. I mean, I got to do. We have to do an analysis of the role of gender in the political space. But the parties headed by two women are the only two parties. Amanza has not out and questioned or sought to misinform. And Brooms has said, well, yes, let's respect what was happened, accepted. She didn't get any seats. Whereas, while Hughes, for example, has been silent.
Do you think that silence means acceptance, right?
It's not acceptance, because then he recently posted some convoluted nonsense questioning the process. And then you have what I would say are allied organizations like GHRE, which GCOM had to put a slap down on. And this is the time when any responsible political leader needs to do a sort of perform a concession, or at least say, I may disagree with the performance that we did, but I accept, that the legal results show X, Y, and Z.
Ruel, thanks for coming through. We have to leave it there for tonight.
Of course.
I want to thank you, viewers, for tuning in on Channel 6 and on a various social media platforms. Thanks again, Ruel, for gracing us with your presence and offering this analysis. I guess we'll be back tomorrow. You will be the times and so on, when panels would be published. Just stay tuned. We will be constantly covering the electoral process way up until the president is sworn in. And then we will put a wrap on it. So come back to us every day and we will give you updates and we will have panel, and we will invite people in and provide you with information and interpretation of information and commentary, so that you, in the consuming public, will remain informed. Thank you again for tuning in. Goodbye.
From the inception, we contend